Support for this podcast comes from Staples. Staples is the leading provider of office supplies, offering a vast selection of products and services. Over the last 2 years, Staples has also become one of America's largest janitorial suppliers as well. From your everyday business essentials to your office furniture, printing, facilities, and break room, Staples can do it all. Staples offers benefits to help create efficiencies in procurement and consolidate vendors to streamline internal processes. Visit www.staplesadvantage.com to learn more.
Welcome to The Successful Contractor, powered by Success Group International, a show for residential contractors about residential contractors. We chronicle business journeys, share insights, and celebrate successes in this wonderful industry. I'm your host, Bob Houchin. Hello there, SGI family and other contractor friends. I'm so thankful you're here. As a reminder, all episodes of the Successful Contractor Show are available on YouTube as well as your podcast player of choice. Also, if you're a non-member interested in learning more about SGI, how we can help your business grow both top and bottom line while also becoming part of the contracting industry's largest network of contractors, we are having Profit Day seminars all over the place. New Orleans, Tampa, Las Vegas, and Portland, Maine come to mind right away. So give us a call at 866-299-8505 to attend. SGI members in those markets, if you'd like to come and share with everyone your experiences, your story with that group, give your coach a call. We greatly appreciate you and your help. Today's show is another SGI Monthly Member Discussion. These are interactive, live programs where I interview SGI members on a particular topic. In this discussion, I talked to Drew Hardin of Metro Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and Nick Sylvester of Sylvester Electric in Tewksbury, Massachusetts. The topic of today's discussion, growth, namely how these two gentlemen went from owning medium-sized contracting companies to the larger companies that they are today. We cover an assortment of topics. In particular, we spent plenty of time talking about how they've built their management teams and how they work with those leaders in their businesses on a daily basis to continue to grow their operations. So, without further ado, here's my discussion with Drew Hardin of Metro Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and Nick Sylvester of Sylvester Electric in Tewksbury, Massachusetts. I hope you enjoy it and take away a nugget or two. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for another monthly member discussion. I'm your host, Bob Houchin. Monthly member discussions are your opportunities to hear from members like you explain what they're doing to be successful. Think of it as a little slice of Expo coming to you through your computer or phone every month. Last month, our discussion, we talked about kind of building up to a mid-sized company, what that looks like from when you're maybe a one-man band or just have a couple employees. And today, we're talking about kind of growing from mid-sized to a larger-sized business. Real quick, housekeeping item. As we're talking about today's topic, if you one of the panelists mentions something that's interesting or you have a question about or you'd like some extra explanation on, just write that question in the chat box the last 10 minutes or so in the hour. I'll ask our panelists those questions, so be sure to do that. We want to make sure this is interactive and beneficial to you. So with that, we've got lots to cover, so I'd love to introduce our panelists. I'll do that one by one. Let me first introduce Mr. Nick Sylvester of Sylvester Electric in Tewksbury, Massachusetts. Nick, can you hit that camera? Oh, look at that. You're pro. I like it.
Hey, everybody.
How are we doing today, Nick?
Good. And yourself?
Good. Much better now I'm seeing you. So thanks for being on.
Yeah, no
And
problem.
our other panelist is Mr. Drew Hardin of Metro Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning in Chattanooga, Tennessee. Drew, there we go. I like it. Drew was well prepared. He just found out he was going to be on this because his dad was like, I don't want any part of this. No, we'll have some fun. I appreciate you guys are willing to do this. This is going to be enjoyable. Just always say, think of it as like if we're just talking in the hallways of Expo. So Drew, we'll start with you if you don't mind, just so people kind of get an idea of what your company's all about. Let's actually start with your market. Excuse me, can't talk. Chattanooga. I didn't realize you guys are kind of on the state line of Tennessee and Georgia. So how far does your service area go? How deep into Georgia do you go? How far out into Tennessee do you go?
Absolutely. So we service about 30 miles in a circle. That's not a perfect circle because we are surrounded on mountains on both sides.
Sure.
And so that kind of dissects our service market. And we service, I think, around 500,000, 520,000 people. I think it's 110,000 homes, 120,000 homes. But it does require us to have multiple state license. And every now and then we'll go down to Alabama if we have a customer that owns rental property or something.
Okay, very good. Now you guys, go ahead. What's
So
that?
we sit on the state line of all three, Georgia,
Okay.
Alabama, Tennessee.
Okay, there you go. So now I know obviously you do residential service and replacement. Do you guys do a lot of commercial work as well?
We do not. We
Okay.
actually probably less than 3% of our business total annually
Cool.
is commercial work.
Excellent. All right. Now I know you guys had just a killer year last year. If I'm not, please correct me, and I'm not going to ask you to put you on the spot, but I think I got some insight. Plumbing, on the plumbing side, you guys did what, 7.8 last year, and the HVAC side you did 2.2. Does that sound about right?
Yep.
That's fantastic. That's fantastic. Now, on the plumbing side, is there a lot of that, like sewer line replacements and drain cleaning and all that kind of stuff, or how much of that plumbing is that?
Yeah, I would say probably about 50-50 split. So that seven or odd million, most of that's going to be, I would say probably 45-50% of that will be the excavation portion, and then the other will be residential service calls plumbing. We currently use our plumbers as drain cleaners, but are slowly kind of getting into, we're building a drain only department.
Yeah.
Kind of as we speak, because we see the need to break it up and be able to grow without having to put as much equipment on each truck.
Sure. Now, do you guys only do digs, or do you do relining, or like what all do you offer in that department?
So currently we only offer open and closed digs
Yeah.
because of the man you mentioned earlier. But I think we'll shortly get into relinings, especially as some people in our market have started to get into that. We'll certainly keep pace.
Hey, it's good to offer. I have those options to offer, right? So, well, good. Well, that's great. You guys are really good numbers. So, congratulations on a great year. Mr. Nick, I know you've been very busy lately. It sounds like through the grapevine, you've been adding a lot of positions lately and building the infrastructure of Sylvester Electric. Just so people kind of get a gist of who you are. You guys are in the northern Boston area, right?
Yes.
So
Yep.
bustling market. Kind of share with everyone, how much is your residential commercial split today? As I know you do both.
Yeah, so we're actually moving close to that 50-50 mark.
Okay.
So we did a little over 4 million last year on the residential service, and we did close to 6 million on our commercial side.
That's
Um,
fantastic. Yeah, you guys
yeah,
have really grown since we've talked. I guess it's been a couple of years, so
yeah.
that's great to hear. Well, congratulations to both of you for all your success. Really looking forward to getting some of your insight. Drew, I'll throw over to you. Let's talk a little operations. You well, let's forget everyone's background. You just came back to the business, your dad's business. You came back what, 16 months ago, 14 months ago? You said something like that.
About 14 months ago, and when I came back, we had 35 employees, and I think this morning at our all staff we had 70 employees.
it's, it's a little bit of growth in a short about a time. And you said your sister Kelly, she also runs the business now with you.
She does. Yep. So me and my dad and sister kind of make up what we call the senior leadership team. So we're doing some of the higher level vision stuff, but we bring another, I think it's right now it's 7 managers into our weekly leadership meetings that help decide pace and stuff like that.
Okay, very good. And let's let everyone know, what are your responsibilities? What do you handle? What does your sister handle primarily?
Absolutely. So Kelly, my sister, all of the dispatchers report to her, as well as some of our administrative office staff, HR, she functions in that area. And then all of the field managers, warehouse manager, fleet manager, they all report to me. And so I manage most of the field stuff, but we kind of split it up like that.
Okay, very good. Now you said like 7 managers that kind of report up to you guys as the senior manager. What are those different roles that those managers fulfill?
Yeah, so like our plumbing department's probably the most interesting. So we have 2 field supervisors and then 1 service manager. So the service manager makes a part of the leadership team, but we created those junior positions to make sure that we had a pipeline for future leaders.
Right.
And so those field supervisors will still run some calls, but their primary job is kind of like a trade administrator. Like they're to guarantee that the skill of our technicians is growing week over week, month over month.
Okay.
And we split that 2 ways. We have 1 for drains and 1 for just general plumbing. And so they do ride-alongs every day. They go and help techs. It also allowed us to have one of the things that we always struggle with as our plumbing department was getting bigger is how often was your manager having to be on call? Because, it's exhausting 52 weeks a year if you're the only guy that's running out. And so we use those junior managers to help some of that so that they have the ability to learn the skills, but in a much safer environment than a full service manager position.
Okay. Real quick before we go through the rest of the management team, on those field supervisors, how many plumbers, technicians does each one have reporting up to him? Is there a limit, like 7 to 10, or
Yes.
what's your outlook on that?
We cut off the field supervisors cut off when they get to 12 total between apprentices and members. So
okay.
right,
Including apprentices, yeah.
Yep. So we include apprentice. A part of the apprentice is they get paired up with a senior technician who's their mentor.
Yeah.
And but the field supervisor still has the one-on-one. So everyone in our company gets a one-on-one meeting every week. And so that's about, we find that 12 is about all you can get through without doing nothing but meeting, you know.
Yeah, for sure. All right. So who before we move on and I forget, now with the rest of you said you have a service manager that those two fields report up to. Who else is part of the kind of next level behind you, your sister and your dad management team?
So we have our call center manager, leads all of our CSRs. We have a marketing manager who reports to me. We work together, but she executes and then does all of the reporting and driving of the marketing. We have a fleet manager who is over, we have a lot of excavation equipment, stuff like that. So we were spending so much on mechanics. We hired a fleet manager. It's been great. He also serves some other kind of roles and duties around project manager when we're doing office construction. So he helps out in a lot of different areas. Then we have our HVAC service manager who's currently over install and service. And we have a plumbing service manager and then an excavation service manager. So the excavation service manager runs the two-man crews that do our water lines, digging replacements, sewers, septic. And then we have our finance manager as our last manager.
Very good.
She to make sure that our finances are delivered accurately on the 10th of every month.
That's great. That's great infrastructure right there. I guess as you got, I know the HVAC side is still a little smaller. I guess maybe at some point service and install, you see those being split up as you guys continue to grow that side.
So we're working on building the pipeline for leaders in install. So this year we'll probably be closer. So if last year I think we actually landed somewhere around the 3 million mark in HVAC. So I think this year we'll probably land somewhere closer to that 5.5, 6.
Wow, that's great.
We're really trying to put the hammer down on HVAC. So I think we'll probably split that out here in the next couple of months as we get into the summer.
Super cool. That's fantastic. Real quick on this follow up, and then Nick, I'm sorry, we'll bounce it over to you.
Yeah.
What kind of backgrounds? All these managers, you call center manager, you got a marketing manager, HVAC. What were they? Did they come through the company, or are they mostly external hires that have kind of had skill sets that you thought would, they would figure the business out and be able to figure it out and help you out?
So our company's dead split, half and half. Half came up through the company, and the other half were kind of brought in. So our finance manager was brought in, her skill set. I would say overall, now that we've built our leadership pipeline, it's a lot easier to identify candidates early who are in the company and not subject them to necessarily having to learn everything about plumbing before they're in management. And so our newest manager technically came up through the company, but he's only been on staff for like 3 months. So it's not like we brought him in because we thought he had leadership potential. And so he will be the newest service manager.
Okay, so newest service manager. So I was going to say, my assumption was most of the people in the trades, they come up through the business, or is that fair to say?
Most of the people, maybe ask that question.
Yeah, I'm sorry, I kind of jumbled it up. So people that have the trade experience, were they mostly people that had grown up through the company? So the guys that were technicians that became service managers and that kind of stuff, excavation managers?
Yep. Okay. So our excavation manager was a part of our company, but he was not a tradesman. So I would say most of the time the service manager level is someone that has little light on technical experience, but really heavy on leadership principles and really defines direction of the group. And then the field managers are usually pretty technically, they know they're the technical support. That's kind of how we split it up.
Cool. I like it. Excellent. Thank you, sir. Nick, I'm going to kind of throw the same line of questioning over to you. Now, your brother, Chris, he manages the commercial side still, right?
Yes, we're actually currently looking for a commercial manager. So
Okay.
Chris and Kelly, our administrative manager,
Oh, okay.
handle both of that. Yeah.
Okay, very good. Now, are I got your org chart. I'm assuming fill that CEO role. Are you
No,
also
actually,
fill? Oh,
Chris
you're
does.
not.
Chris is the
Chris is
CEO
doing it.
role. Yep.
Okay.
And I'm the CFO.
The CFO. Okay, excellent, excellent. All right, well that explains that. So the residential manager role, are you no longer filling that? Have you found someone to fill that?
Yeah, so that's going to be Tim. He took that over. We brought him on back in June,
Okay.
and I haven't actually done that position in a while.
Oh,
Probably since he's fully taken over since August, maybe.
oh,
Yeah,
that's exciting. Well,
yeah,
very good. Okay. Let's see. So on top, you said you shared you're doing the CFO role. You have the administrative manager I saw there.
yep.
Well,
It's
let's see.
Kelly.
What are you, Kelly? Well, who else is that? All the manager right there, or who else am I missing? Somebody?
Yeah, so CEO is Chris. I'm the CFO. Commercial
Mhm,
manager, we're looking to hire. Residential manager is Tim. The
mhm.
administrative manager is Kelly. And then so that's kind of like that first level of leadership that Drew was talking about that we've
Yeah.
established in the last 6 months. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great. That's very cool. Now, how many trucks are you guys rolling now
So right
on the
now on the
residential side?
residential,
Sorry.
yeah,
Yeah.
we have nine trucks out there
Okay.
fully,
Okay.
and we have two that are about to roll out on the road. They're coming out of training, and we have five going into training um,
Wow.
that we just brought on like in the next 2 to 3 weeks. Yeah.
Wow. So are they kind of technically filling in? Are they considered apprentices? Or are they onboarding as actual like residential electricians that'll be in their own trucks within 3 months or so?
Yeah, new technicians in their own trucks. Yep,
Whoa,
going
where did
into
you hit a pipeline? 5. That's great.
yeah. So some actually they're new hires, and some are coming over from our commercial side.
Okay.
Yep.
Oh, that's interesting. All right.
Yeah.
So we got to open this can of worms because I get questions about this all the time. Oh, I got commercial guys that want to do residential, and I don't know. I don't think he can talk to a wall. So how is he going to do residential service? So how did you? I guess you had to know these. Obviously, know these guys. They've worked for you. Did you just know that they would have the right communication skills to be able to fulfill that? I mean, have you had to have those hard conversations with other guys? Go, I don't know if you're going to fit this, or do you let them learn on their own? What's your philosophy on that?
Yeah, right now the biggest thing that we're trying to focus on is training and getting to know the team more.
Yeah,
So that's what we've spent like a lot of time in the last 6 months doing. A lot of one-to-one meetings with managers, and so it wasn't the approach we used to take was we would just ask them, "Do you want to do it?"
yeah.
And most of them would say no, right? Like
Right.
now it's like Kelly's talked to them, Tim has talked to them, Jeff has talked to them. They're gonna start doing some ride-alongs to see if they like it on the residential side. But
Oh,
these
okay.
these couple that are coming over are the first ones that we've kind of started to have those talks with, type thing. So
Okay.
yeah.
Well, I like that you have them do the ride along so they can learn. They'll learn real quick if they like this or not. You're like, okay,
Yeah.
we're gonna.
And it's
So
not
that's
just one ride along, right? Like
yeah,
it might be for a couple of weeks, or it might be like, hey, let's do 3 days this week, see how you like it. Let's try, a couple days next week. So it's not just like one day type thing.
okay. Very
Yeah.
good. Very, very good. Nick, it seems like you've gone through this whole restructuring. How long has this taken? What about is it a year, 18 months, something like that? Kind of getting
Yeah.
your
So
org chart.
we started kind of focusing on the infrastructure back in October of 2020.
Okay.
Yeah.
All
So
right.
it's been so it really sad to kick off once we started putting the people in place, but it took 6-8 months to really start finding and putting those people in the right boxes.
Okay.
So
Yeah. And how
yeah.
and how did you guys decide that, you were going to be CFO and your brother was going to be CEO and how everyone kind of fell into place? What was that? Just you guys had open discussions, management meetings, leadership meetings. You guys weren't in those specific titles yet. So how did that all kind of shake loose?
Yeah, a lot of the stuff that we did was a lot of conversations back and forth, a lot of one-on-ones between Chris and I, just saying, you know, um, where are we going to be best fit in the company? What other people can we bring onto the team that's going to really bring the team to the next level. Chris,
Yeah.
what are you good at? Nick, what are you good at?
Yeah.
Type thing.
Right.
And we actually constantly have that conversation, because
That's
now
right.
as we're actually expanding, I heard Drew, like, you have a marketing manager.
Yeah, I was
That's
going to ask about that later on. Yeah.
Yeah, we don't have that yet, but that was a conversation with Chris and myself. Is that a position that I should be taking over versus CFO role? So it's
Right.
constantly changing, especially with my position. But so it's really making sure that the right person's in the right seat.
For
That's the
sure.
biggest thing. Yeah,
That's
yeah.
cool. Now, all right. So you said you had 9 trucks rolling. You got 5 more. That's good. I'm not the best at math, but that's 14 to me. And you've got them one manager that'll be handling 14 trucks at that point.
Yeah, so we just actually had this conversation yesterday. So we're roughly very similar to Drew, between 7 and 12, depending if they're apprentices and tech licensed techs in the truck. That
Yeah.
one, we call them electrical coordinators.
Okay.
So the electrical coordinator is the one that's meeting with them, talking with them, making sure that they're trained. They're meeting with them every morning, type thing. So we're actually looking for another electrical coordinator to come on. And Tim, in the residential manager position, is going to help Jeff in the meantime, to make sure everybody's still trained as we're recruiting for another electrical coordinator.
Okay. I was going to ask about that, and I should have asked you, Drew, but who is managing the training? So is it Tim? I'm sorry, I'm getting all the names mixed up. Is it your service manager that is doing that for you guys and still, or is it those coordinators?
Are you asking Drew or myself?
You, Nick. I'm sorry.
Okay, yeah.
We'll finish up with you before I throw back over to Drew.
Okay, yeah. So the coordinators actually doing the training.
Okay.
Which is being managed by their manager. So Tim and Jeff will work together, but Jeff is the one that actually does the deliverable of the training.
Excellent. All right.
And Kelly, as the administrative manager, is the one that's organizing all the training to make sure, like, everybody has a development plan, everybody has a training plan, and keeping track of it all.
Okay. Now, Jeff, this coordinator, does he run calls as well, or is he just primarily, okay, he does not. All right.
Yeah, primarily in the office. Yep.
Okay. All right. Now I got to ask, because people are going to, and I won't, let me just go ahead and do it. So this coordinator role, how is he compensated? Is that, because it's kind of like a manager type role, right? It's a junior manager role. Is this an hourly, is it a salary type position with some kind of incentives to hit gross margins, or like what, how do you look at that one?
Yeah, so right now, everybody that's in the field is all hourly. And coordinators and supervisors and managers are salaried.
Okay.
Now, right now, we have a spiff or bonus program for our field and CCRs, but we are moving towards a more overall like merit system, or bonus program. So everybody would be, if we hit team goals, we're trying to get away from individual, because right now we're very individual. If I hit this, it's my goal, type thing. And we want to get to our goal, the bigger goal type thing. So that's going to be changing to also include supervisors and coordinators, because they're not bonused out right now.
Right. Okay. All right. Good stuff. Drew, I do want to throw over those questions that kind of just hit me as I was talking to Nick. So for your field, kind of your field managers, right? The guys that are helping out manage the technicians, what's their compensation kind of like? Is it an hourly with some kind of incentives, or, because if they're not they drive revenue, right? But it's not like, okay, he worked on this job, so he gets a, piece rate of so much. So what's your approach to that?
Yeah, so the junior managers, if you will, get a small bonus for every technician that hits their individual goal, so that they're invested in making sure that they're technically getting more proficient at the trade part of it, which is where we want their primary focus to be. And so then if everyone on their team or as a part of, we have it split, drains and plumbing. So instead of having like 5 guys under a junior manager, 5 guys, it's just if everyone hits their drain goal, the drain guy gets a bonus. Everyone hits their plumbing guy gets one, and then the service manager gets bonus on the whole thing, gross margin, kind of pretty similar to what everyone else would do for the service manager.
Okay, very good. Now, who handles like the soft skills training? Who, for you guys, who does that?
A little bit of everybody, but the service managers are the ones who are responsible for putting the plan together. A lot of them will ask me or our sales manager or somebody like that to come in and to do the training for them at times, especially just depending on what the topics we're talking about. They'll try to find the best person. Sometimes they'll ask some of their guys to lead the training meetings,
Okay.
but the service manager is responsible for putting the calendar together and making sure it's executed.
Okay, very cool. All right, Drew, I'm going to stay with you while we're talking. A little bit of a change, but yeah, not too terribly much. These junior managers, or even the higher level managers, what kind of attributes or personalities have you noticed that they have that you're like, boy, he or she's going to be successful? Like you elevated them in this role, or you hired them for this role for a reason. So what was it? Was it a personality, or was it a skill set, or and also as a follow-up, are they complementary to you, or is everyone pretty similar to how you and your sister operate?
So I would say no one's well, I don't want to say no one's similar, but I feel like we all have our strengths, all have our weaknesses.
Yeah.
All of our greatest weaknesses are our strengths overplayed. And so we have a set of words that we're looking for. So I'll read those off really quick.
Oh,
There's 5 characteristics,
that's cool.
and there's 6, looks like 7 competencies, is how we split it up. So for the character, we're looking for someone who's responsible, humble, generous. They have high integrity and tenacity. So they have to have all 5. They can't be lacking. And then the 7 competencies we're looking for is communication skills, emotional intelligence, conflict management, relationship building, decision making, talent developing, and goal setting.
Wow. Okay.
And so if they are in that, and they doesn't matter if they're an extrovert, introvert, DISC on the disc, none of that. If they have these characteristics and these competencies, they're going to be a manager at our place.
That's cool. Now, do you well, first of all, how did you come up with that? Like, was that a series of meetings and you guys just saying, what do you value? What do we see in our best people? Like, what was the genesis of that?
Like all of the great companies in SGI, we took this from another member.
Oh, there's some truth to that, brother. Yeah, that's funny.
I am not a leadership wizard. And so we talked with a bunch of companies who've been in groups with us in the past and just kind of threw it together with a group of us who are all in a group together.
Okay, that's cool. Now, do you use that also? First of all, who handles most of your interviewing and hiring? Who handles that? Like for not just for management stuff, but like frontline people as well.
So all of our service managers are responsible for staffing their team. Okay. We have what's called an employee experience director. He's not a manager, but think of him more as like an HR. He does all of our onboarding. He's over the apprentices school part of the apprenticeship. So he has a combo role of a couple of things. So he actually does a lot of the preliminary phone touch. He knows what we're looking for. He knows we're looking for a good communicator, likable personality, well kept when they come in. So he pre-screens and then he passes off the resume to one of our service managers or to myself, depending on what the position is. And that's how we currently facilitate that.
Okay. Now I asked that to ask this follow-up question, which is, does he and do you guys as interviewers keep in mind those lists that you just went through of competent, like you go, okay, you might be being hired on as an apprentice, right? So I hate to say a low level position, but in a beginning level position, do you still make sure they check those certain boxes?
We wouldn't, so not necessarily all of these. We actually have our 5 values that we ask them questions around.
Okay. Well, what are the 5 values?
I was gonna say we have it's too many vocabulary words. This is for leadership specifically.
That was for leadership specifically.
Our 5 values are they have to be happy, healthy, humble, helpful, and hustle. Cool. Our high 5 values. Yeah. And so we interview. We have groups of questions that actually outline how we prove, are they happy? Do they focus on like controlling themselves and getting better and all that? That directs our interview process for those positions.
That's interesting. Now what does healthy mean? Just like mentally healthy, like they're going to be or like physical fitness test, or what are you guys doing?
Yeah, no PT test. I would fail for sure. I'd be the first.
You and me both. Yeah.
But if you can catch our owner in a foot race, you're hired. No, it's one of those things where healthy to us means that you're focused on just being a better version of yourself, physically, mentally, spiritually, emotionally, intelligence wise. We really use that value as, is someone interested in knowing exactly where they are right now,
Yeah.
identifying a position out in the future that they want to be, and then continuing steps along that path. That's what that healthy virtue. Yes, we would love for you to be physically healthy. We also use the healthy one for time off. So we have a very generous time off policy, and I'm a firm believer, if you do not break away from your job, you cannot be a healthy person. So we have some pretty strict, like, you have to take it. We want you to leave the place, leave your desk. The managers can't be on 24/7. That's not how humans were wired to be.
Yeah, that's really good. That's good. And I like that you kind of structure the interviewing process where you have those core values, right? So everyone's asking the same questions, so you can compare. If you have, I know nowadays it feels like you try to hire anyone you can, but obviously you can't do that. You want quality people, so you have that as guidelines. That's super cool. I really like that. All right, so Nick, I'm going to kind of bounce over to you. When you're looking, let's start from more the management side. You guys talked about having those conversations about who fits what roles, where are your competencies, what are your skill sets. I mean, do you guys mostly complement each other, or do you mostly have similar personalities and skill sets, or what do you guys think?
Yeah, I would say that we're pretty similar, which is interesting, Drew, when you mentioned about how different you guys are. I would say on the leadership end, I would say we're similar.
Yeah.
And as we're kind of learning each other and working with each other, because that's a big thing that we're trying to focus on, right? Is that getting to know each other, getting to know how each other ticks type thing is. I'm realizing we're more and more similar
Yeah.
on things. So
Yeah.
it's been interesting to see how that's been developing over the 6-8 months.
Okay, very good. Now, as you brought on all these people, I want to ask a follow-up because it's just a hot topic. Everyone wants to know who's leading the charge in recruiting and interviewing. Are you still kind of doing some of that, or who in your team is managing that?
Yeah, so Chris and I were doing it. We hired a part-time recruiter
Okay.
about a year and a half ago, and then she moved full-time. She was working 40 to 60 hours for us.
Okay.
And then we started to realize when we were building the team out that we really needed to have people in-house. We love remote, but we were running
She's
into
remote.
a lot of bumps. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we did have the conversation with her, and she actually had to find a replacement for herself, which is what ended up happening.
Okay.
So when we brought Kelly on, Kelly took on recruiting, and she was doing that full time. And then we actually brought on an HR coordinator, and she does recruiting full time right now
Okay.
for us.
Very
Yeah.
good. That's great. That's great. How big of a difference has that made having that role so you guys don't have to kind of do that anymore?
Yeah. So we bringing that on, and now, like when the person was remote, we were doing a lot of more of that micromanaging, right? Like it was much harder to figure it out. Now that they're part of the team and they're here and they're in meetings and they know our culture and how we work, it's been tremendous.
Yeah.
Night and day compared to what it was. So, and that's been like the biggest key to our growth is having a full-time person here
Yeah.
doing it. Yeah.
Will that recruiter do all the interviews? I'm sure you probably want that individual in front of a manager at some point, right? That they're the person they're going to report to. Like, what's the process?
Yeah, so we've actually changed our process quite a bit
Okay.
because over the last few months, we've moved away from communication through text, email, automation type, communication throughout the office, and we've moved to face with,
Okay.
just in general, right? And that's been a huge thing. So instead of someone emailing you asking you to do something, it's like either let's have a meeting or get up and go to that person's desk, right?
Sure.
Which also relates back to recruiting. So we used to do a lot through email and stuff like that, where now we're trying to get them to come into the office, come
Hmm.
meet the team, come to the office, have your interview. So Jess does a very brief phone interview with the candidate to see if they meet more of personality questions, which is like
Okay.
what Drew's talking about. So
Yeah.
we have, a handful of those, and then it goes into the manager, whoever the management, what team they're going to be on. So for
Mhm.
instance, like I'm looking for a bookkeeper right now. I'm doing those interviews, and at some point we actually have a senior account that just came on 3 months ago, and he would be doing that, and then
Okay.
I would interview them as well. So
Okay.
yeah.
That makes sense. All right. I like it. Very good. Very good.
And one actually, Bob, I
yeah.
got one thing, because we just implemented this. So we
Okay.
used to do offers to people over the phone or by email.
Okay.
And we actually just switched that to in person, which was very awkward. It was very, very
right.
awkward, because I was
you're closing them. Yeah.
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 And so I did it. Of course, she didn't take the position. It was a bookkeeper. It was okay. She had another offer, and it was between us and them. But having that in person, like, she was able to ask me some more questions.
Okay.
Like, instead of that email back and forth that normally happens during recruiting,
Yeah.
it was just nice to be able to talk to them, see what their worries were about. You know, she's like, oh, I got to talk about this with my husband. You know, and I was able to say, no problem. Like, you know, if you have any questions while you're with your husband, give me a call. Here's my cell phone.
Support for this podcast comes from NAVAC. NAVAC is a global manufacturer and has dedicated over 25 years to the production of vacuum pumps, recovery solutions, and HVAC tools. NAVAC draws upon its commitment to technical innovation, customer service, and R&D investment to develop tools that deliver efficiency, accuracy, and ease of use in the real world. Visit www.navacglobal.com for more information.
Welcome back to the show. I'm talking to Drew Hardin of Metro Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and Nick Sylvester of Sylvester Electric in Tewksbury, Massachusetts. And we're talking about growing from a mid-sized company to a larger contracting company. Let's jump back into my conversation with Drew and Nick. A little shift of topics. Drew, I'm going to throw over to you. I mean, you guys have been just growing like wildfire. How much do you, in terms of measuring whether your managers are successful, how many KPIs do you have, or what KPIs do you make them responsible for? You know, is one of them employee retention is one I hear more and more. You know, you got to really make sure you keep people, you ain't chasing them off, right? So how do you determine by numbers how each of your managers are successful?
Great question. So a couple different ways. So each one of our service managers has, I want to say, I'm looking here. I'm so glad that my desk was not cleaned off.
And you had so much time to think about all this too. Yeah.
Any of this, I'm like, it's just right here. This is awesome. So our managers have 8 KPIs.
Cool.
Our service managers have 8 KPIs that we track. Employee engagement and retention is one of those things.
Very good.
We're also looking for the reviews, and then some of the typical financial metrics. You know, if you're making customers happy and your team is happy, by nature, your tickets are going to be better, the conversion rate's going to be higher, and you're going to get more 5-star reviews. They all kind of go in there together. So that's for our, our junior managers, a little bit harder to track statistically, but we have a skills matrix. And so with the skills matrix, we use the one inside a service site, and we also have one that's plastered everywhere on the wall. They're encouraged, basically, if we go a quarter without every technician gaining a skill, then we know that junior manager's not doing his job of training the technical skill out in the field that we need.
That's cool. Very interesting. All right. A follow-up to you. It's a little unrelated, but while we're chatting, you are growing, obviously huge. It's happening fast. People are coming in. Maybe occasionally somebody leaves. How do you avoid being reliant on people's just skill and ability versus having like SOPs in place, checklists in place? Is that something you guys have been working on? Do you have that in place, or is that something like we need to get to that? Because I understand that I hear all sorts of things.
Oh man, yeah, you just hit my soul. Some days I don't know how we got this large with as little SOPs as we have, but we've invested heavily. I'm sitting here, I'm gonna probably call Nick after this and be like, what SOPs do you have for some of your managers? I've become an SOP monster. Because I would say the number one problem.
Oh, look at this, show off.
I'm gonna fly up to his shop tomorrow.
This is what we're working on.
Okay.
It's not all in place yet, but
yeah. Well, you're getting this question, so you can think about it. Yeah.
We started SOPs when I first got back, and certainly a lot of things has SOPs, but I would say we're nowhere near where we need to be for what size we are.
And that's pretty common, I'll be honest with you. So how are you guys, what's the process of trying to fill those in? Is that something, do you have that as a task that you guys are going to talk as a management team, or you're like, we haven't even gotten that far yet? And that's fine, but I just want to see what you say.
Yeah, so I've been giving out managers SOPs to write, especially ones where right now our method is less effective probably than it could be. I would say that right now it's as we talk about processes and procedures in our management meetings, we go ahead and have a scribe write them down, get them out to the staff, get them in the booklet, get them in the booklet, get them in the booklet. We are becoming much better at being preemptive in writing them. So like our marketing manager, when she came on, we didn't have one before, so there's no SOPs.
Sure.
So
Right.
in our one-on-one every week, we're reading through SOPs and making sure that she's actively putting together what we do. But cool. I would say, honestly, I should probably hire a full-time scribe to just walk around and write them all down for everyone, because it's a pain.
That's funny. All right, I'm going to throw over to you because time is going quickly. Nick, let's the first question in terms of KPIs and monitoring employee retention. For managers, what kind of KPIs do you throw on them to keep an eye on, so to make sure that all the goals are being met?
Yeah, so right now we're behind what Drew actually just said. Right now we're more financial, and we're looking for ways to actually change and incorporate, the happiness of the team and all those other personality side of the KPI. They're not KPIs, but they are, right? Like just different ones. So that's what we're actually trying to build out right now. So we're not there yet. Yeah.
Are you just having discussions like, how are we going to monitor people? It's a hard thing to wrap your hands around. I don't even know how to ask the question.
Because numbers are so easy, right? It's black and white. This is what it is. But how do you bring to a meeting how happy your team is, right? So
for sure.
We do have we actually have a senior management team twice a week for 3 hours each that we go over this stuff. Yeah.
That's cool.
And 1 hour that's actually not even the SOP meeting. So we have a workflow / SOP meeting that we go over the book. Is this one working? Is it not? Which ones do we got to work on? Yeah. And then the team brings back their feedback to the next meeting. So it's because we realize they're just slow, right? We can't just create the book overnight. So we spend an hour a week, we get the whole team together, and we, what's working, what's not, what's your frustrations type thing, and just keep plugging away at it.
Wow. So how close are you think, in terms of having a pretty good first binder of SOPs in place?
If you ask me, we're probably 20% done.
Okay.
Yeah. We got probably maybe about 18 to 20 policies in place.
Yeah.
And I feel like every day it's like, well, wait a minute, this one actually is like a subcategory of this. Is it its own, or is it, do we add it to this one? Yeah. So I feel like we're far off from it, but
but
the emergency ones always make it to the top. Like if we have a fire, we're like, how do we prevent this fire from happening? This makes top priority on the agenda of we don't want this to happen again. Yeah.
Right. Sure. That's great. I'm glad to hear you both are cognizant of it and working on it, because sometimes we talk to really, really big companies. They're like, everyone's been here 20 years. We all know what we're doing. You're like, oh my God. All right, well, let's follow up. So I was going to ask about meetings. So Nick, you said there's an SOP meeting, or go through all the managers meetings you guys have.
Yeah, sure. So we have, we actually have a lot of meetings that we're realizing. So we have a payroll meeting, because payroll is a big issue for the longest time.
Okay.
So we get all the managers together for that, so we can talk about issues, PTO, any payroll, COVID, all that stuff. Then we have a budgeting meeting once a week with upper management. So it's myself and Chris. We talk about that. We bring the team back, so it's all the upper management for the senior management team. That's twice a week, 3 hours each, so it's a good 6 hours. Sometimes it runs over on those ones. We have a recruiting meeting for half an hour so that whoever is recruiting during the week is in that meeting. So it's upper management plus whatever manager that needs to be in there that's involved. So that's twice a week for half an hour. Then we have we just added a purchasing order meeting because we're realizing purchasing and inventory is all over the place. So
that's what I was wondering.
And then we have 2 sub meetings once a week for an hour that the departments get together. So like not including Chris. So the 3 departments will get together and just, hey, what's going on this week? How can I help you? How can you help me? Like, type thing. So I didn't count that up, but it's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, about 10 hours, 10 meetings a week right now.
Yeah. Well, hey, you're a growing company. You want to make sure things keep moving in the right direction. You said
almost
that
like we're over meeting right now, but it's like that line of like, getting stuff done in the meetings, but
right. On those 2 3-hour meetings, what did you call those again? Those were senior team. So that includes the
team meetings,
the upper end, kind of middle level. That's when you're talking about the SOPs. That's 3 hours is a long time. So what all is like an agenda for a 3-hour meeting?
Yeah, so a lot of times we're talking about like the future growth, right? So this year we want to get to 20 trucks on the road by the end of the year. So how are we doing that? Where are we getting the trucks? What are we doing for recruiting? Sure. Building out the team. Okay, the work chart changed again. This is what it looks like. One of the biggest things was the communication that made the agenda this week. When communications come into the office, like how are we handling that? What does that flow look like? What my struggles are in my department. I'm in the business department. So what does that look like? Where are my frustrations? Kelly will say, hey, I'm having these issues this week. We try to solve those type problems at that meeting. We talk about the morale of everybody's team, where everybody stands, any issues that everybody's having, how to handle those. We'll go over like if we need to talk or come up with sub meetings, like for instance, if an employee is having an issue, who needs to be talking to that employee.
Sure.
We go over training, what training looks like, where people are where they're at with their training. They're on ongoing development. So yeah, it just keeps going on and on.
Yeah, no, but I mean, it's all productive stuff. Do you build an agenda so you guys stay on point, so it's a productive time?
Yeah. One of the biggest things that we realized is about 3 months ago, every meeting that we have, even if we're just meeting one-to-one, always needs to have an agenda, even if there's only one item on the list. Just put that item. And we went to printed agendas, so there's no more computers at meetings. So it's a piece of paper to have everybody more interactive with each other.
I like it. That's interesting. Okay, very good, Drew. Let's kind of throw it over to you. What's your management? What's your meeting schedule like with your managers, so everyone's communicating and knowing what the heck's going on?
Well, Nick, man, you make me feel like we don't meet enough. I'm sitting there.
Let's wait for that. Yeah.
Our guys are out on their own. So so everyone in our company gets a one-on-one every week. So, and then we back up from there. So all of the managers get a management one-on-one with myself or my sister, depending on who's reporting to who.
Yeah.
And then the only management meeting that we have currently is our Fridays. We have a 2-hour leadership meeting. So we usually split. An hour is reporting. So we have the kind of a similar agenda every week, but the first hour is reporting where we're at, our pace for the month. Then the commitment to the rest of the team for what you're actually going to drive. So if you're behind, are you going to be able to catch up? If you're not, what are you committing to? And then the third section, so it's really like 4 meetings. We kind of even time break and bathroom break and stuff in between. But then we'll have what issues are we having? Where are we missing things? Everyone get an update. And then we have an accountability section where we all go through our 100-day plans. Are we on track for our 100-day plans? And if we're not, we're getting in each other's grill a little bit to figure out what the other team members can do to support what they're doing.
Yeah, I like that. I like that a lot. So you said that's on a Friday, like kind of in the afternoon, as things are kind of winding down for the week, right?
We actually just chose to put it in the middle of Friday
Middle of the
morning.
day.
We
Friday
start
morning.
10 to
Okay.
noon, and then
Okay.
sometimes we eat lunch together afterwards. Just depends on
Yeah.
what the day.
Well, the guys are out. It's not like in the morning, the hustle and bustle, it's quieted down so you can focus.
Yeah, it's also a measure of just making sure that we're making time for things that are important but not necessarily urgent, to go back to
Okay.
the Stephen Covey kind of logic.
Sure. Actually, Nick, I'm real quick on your list of meetings. How do you try and stack them, or what part of the day? Because I mean, I get why you're having them, because it's a lot of these are big issues, right? Recruiting, getting your purchasing order stuff figured out, right? Getting your trying to think ahead with planning and where you want to drive the business. But how do you manage it so you can take care of the guys in the morning if there's questions? I know you're not maybe into that as much anymore, but still, it's a lot of activity in the morning, I'm sure. So. How do you kind of manage all these meetings?
Yeah, so Kelly's actually in charge of the master schedule. So we started on spreadsheets. We've now moved to like calendars, and
Okay.
she manages everybody's calendar. So the managers manage their own calendars because we do one-on-ones with the team,
Cool.
with their
Good.
managers, right?
Yeah.
And then, so typically the mornings are left for the field, and then the afternoons are typically management meetings is
Yeah.
kind of how we kind of split that up.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
Excellent. We're closing in about 12 minutes. I got at least one question, but I want to be sure to ask, because we talked about it at the very beginning, is marketing, because recruiting, marketing, they're always hot topics. Let's see. So let's see. Drew, you said you have the marketing manager, right? When did that position happen? How long has that position been there?
About 4 weeks ago.
Oh wow! So that's okay. That's good though. I mean, it's at least we can it's a fresh experience, right? So we can follow up with that. So what kind of background does this person have? What kind of responsibilities are you giving him or her?
Awesome. So I'm ours is more, I had a person who I was trying to recruit from out of state. And so I wanted to get her on our staff. So she took over the marketing management, but she's also my executive assistant. And
Okay.
so ours is probably a little weird and maybe not replicatable. But the goal would be that she's writing all the SOPs for the marketing manager that we're going to hire full time once she moves here.
Okay.
So she's a special person who I've worked with in past companies, and
Mhm.
so trying to recruit her. Her and her family are moving out of California. So I say that to say she's actually designing the marketing manager role, but also facilitating it currently. So our marketing manager, we sit down, we come up with a year's worth of marketing last year, and then her job's to execute, modify, and then deliver.
Okay.
And so that's what she does. She's monitoring, our online direct mail, our campaigns that we do with local community out events. Work a lot with the news channel, giving away units and different things like that.
Okay.
She facilitates all of that.
Okay, cool. Yeah, I was going to ask you, being in a smaller market, if you were doing a lot of traditional media like TV or radio news type stuff, or if it's all digital, what's kind of your mix? Putting you on the spot on that one.
No, you're good. We try to keep it around a third, a third, a third. So we want
Okay.
about a third to be digital, a third to be traditional print, mailing, things like that, and then a third branding. So
Okay.
our branding campaigns, we consider our local TV news campaigns as a branding campaign.
Sure.
We sponsor like a local AAA minor league team. We have sponsorships at schools, and then we have one program she's working on is giving away water to booster clubs at high school with our name
Okay.
on it and a couple of our nonprofit partners,
Yeah.
and then give that to the school and allow them to make the full markup on it, as opposed to, Coca-Cola charges them $1, then they sell it for $2. We're like, we'll just give it to you, sell it for whatever you
Oh,
want.
cool. I like
Is one
that.
little thing.
That's neat. You said a third is still what? Is direct mail? Is a third that much is direct mail?
Yeah, we hammer time with direct mail.
Is that right now? Is that only to current customers, or are you targeting certain zip codes or for new customers?
The bulk of our direct mail goes to customers in the last 18 months.
Uh-huh.
We would call those active customers. So
Sure.
the bulk's going to go to active customers, our home care club or partner plan, or whatever people call it, our members. So a good chunk of that a third of that budget's going to making sure that we're touching our members at least 6 to 8 times a year. We send out a present. We partner
Cool.
with local restaurants for gift cards that redeem purchase. So we do a lot of stuff with our members and with our current customers. And then about maybe 10% of that budget, 15% of that budget a year is allocated towards new customer acquiring.
Okay. Now, on those that mailing type stuff that you're going to your active customers, is that discount oriented? Like you get $10 off a ticket, or what's the offer, or is it just a branding type mailer, or what do you guys do?
Yes. Every one of those. So we try not to, if we send an offer, then we feel like we got to send a gift next. So we don't send multiple offers in a row. We like to send a "We miss you" card, and it's just like, hey, thinking of you. It's literally nothing other than just a cheesy little thing to say, we really miss you. We haven't seen you in a while. Hope everything's okay. So we do that all the way to a letter with a gift card. So we send our member, we try to send anywhere between $25 and $50 to every member per year in gift cards to local restaurants and eateries. And so we partner with those restaurants to help get the buy down a little bit smaller. Only on redeem. And so we send our members, try to send our members 2 gifts a year.
Cool.
Our members much less offer oriented. Sometimes on the "We miss you," it'll be $100 off a special or something we're doing with indoor air quality or a toilet or something like that. But most times, I'd say probably 50-50. 50% of the time it's an offer, 50% it's just checking in, touching base. And then our call center, and then it all connects into email. So our call center is doing call outs. Hey, did you get our card? Just want to let you make sure everything was good with the last call we did. And then they're getting an email about 10 days after that, just saying, hey, thanks for picking up our phone call. Or if they didn't answer, hey, we'd love to talk to you, make sure everything's going good with your house. We appreciate you being a customer.
I love that. It's not with the mail, it's not just all taking, it's giving, and that's really cool. I don't know I've ever heard anyone do that exactly. I know people that send gifts after changing out a system or something, but to do it just actively throughout the year, every year, is a cool little nugget. And I've been doing this a long time. I haven't heard that. So I like that. So Nick, you were just talking about, oh boy, marketing manager. We might need that real soon. Maybe that's you that fills that. So who is managing marketing at this juncture for Sylvester Electric?
Yeah, right now it's myself, and I just took a lot of tips from Drew. So thank you, Drew. Because right now marketing is not like my full attention. So we are realizing now, to get to that next level that we need to get to, someone needs to be focusing on it full time. So 100%.
So
yeah, and I was actually re-looking back at the SGI model. Once you get to the level that we're at, and how much you should be spending in the different categories, to start branding versus just online. A lot of our stuff is online leads and direct mail. So we want to start getting into those other categories.
Yeah, where you are, it's just so tough to get into other kind of traditional media. I mean, it's got to be just ridiculously expensive. I'm sure that's why I would assume you're digital heavy, because
that's getting. It's so crazy when you see how much you're actually spending on digital too. You're like, oof.
So you said you do a little mail too. So I'm intrigued. Is that to current customers or club members, or who gets those pieces?
Yeah, so I'm actually working on that as we speak, because I'm realizing you have to be consistent with direct mail. You just can't send out one blast and then man, all this stuff, So I've separated it out into 3 categories. Basically, it's like new acquisitions, new customers that we haven't done work for. Very similar to what Drew said, if we've been to them in the past, so we're trying to rebrand to them with direct mail, and then also to our SSP members.
Okay.
We don't do gifts, and that's a good one. I'm gonna have to look into that with gifts and stuff. So
I've heard of gifts after major replacement type stuff, after you've taken a good chunk off the customer, but not just to do it actively, to go, hey, we love you. I think that's pretty cool, and I like you have a budgeted amount for it. So that's a big takeaway for me, for sure.
Yeah.
All right, we've got about 4 minutes left. I have one question, and it's to each of you. I'll have you respond, and then I'll have a wrap up question. So guys, thanks for your time. This was a lot of fun.
Thank you.
No, but my pleasure. All right, Drew, I'll lead this. You can go first with this. The question from the crowd was, is there any growth advice you can give to a 5-truck company that is strong from a KPI standpoint, but has trouble with enough call volume to add additional trucks. So marketing, I guess. So what would you say to this member, Drew?
Is it well, it's got I feel like I always answer a question with about 5 more questions, and then I'll answer it. But
Sure.
I'll do my best. I'll do my best without asking follow-up questions.
Yeah.
I would say the very first thing is to utilize your call center probably more than you are. No matter what the trade is, my guess is if you're struggling getting call volumes, you're not using the call center correctly. I mean, that was our experience. We went from 35 to 70 employees, and I would tell you that it's because we started just absolutely hammering the phones, old school style, cold calls, warm calls, everything like that. And then the second piece is make sure you're not just branding one way. So said a different way is all of our trucks line up, our uniforms line up, everything lines up perfectly. And so the chances of them seeing a small piece of ours, maybe in the mail, seeing our van out, seeing a billboard, seeing our TV commercial, seeing us on digital, we remarket a lot on Google. So making sure that you have a plan and actually, like Nick said, actually sticking with the plan. It seems daunting at the beginning of the year. You're like, there's no way I want to spend, ours is always 10% of last year's total budget. So this year, we have a $970,000 marketing budget, and you're like, there's no way, that's crazy.
Yeah.
But if we spend that 970 and we track it wisely and we actually stick with the plan that we created with a lot of great input from people, then, just taking that risk and trusting that the process works is, getting over that fear is huge.
That's cool. Very good. Nick, kind of same question to you. The KPI wise, we got a 5-truck company. They feel happy with their numbers are, but they're worried about call volume. So what recommendations might you have for him or her?
Yeah, definitely. Like Drew said, the calls, we were working with Sonia very closely, with our call center when our volume is down, is every CCR 80 to 100 calls, just pounding the calls, get them to get the text in front of a customer one way or another. So, and I know that's hard when you think about that number. It's a lot of calls, but if they're just sitting there not doing anything,
they're gonna sit there. Yeah.
So when the call volume is down, that's when the call center is like the most busiest and most stressed out, right? And then it's the dispatchers are the other way. When we start getting busier again, that's when the dispatchers are stressed out and the call center is like, oh yeah, I just booked all these calls,
Well, someone's got to be stressed out. That's all right. Better.
Yeah.
As long as it's not you, you got to get the call volume where it needs to be, or no one's going to be happy.
Yeah.
So,
and then just look at all your marketing, make sure what's working, what's not, how many calls are coming in, how many leads are coming in, what are you closing? You should have start with a spreadsheet of what you're spending, how many calls are coming in, and then put a little bit more towards, the items that are working. And then if, I know one big thing I was working with Sonia for actually quite a few weeks was Home Advisor. It was such a big thorn in our side. And once we figured out how to handle it from other members, she introduced me some members that making it works. It was like, okay, we understand that. Right now we're struggling with Yelp. So I need some help with Yelp.
With Yelp.
So that's like an avenue that we need to work on. But definitely call volume and look at your marketing numbers.
Well, good stuff. Great. All right. Very last question, gentlemen. We're at an hour. Thank you so much for your time. What does the future hold for Metro, Drew? Where do you guys, you've got all you're just adding people like nuts. Where do you want to take your young guy? Where do you want to take the business next 10, 20 years? What do you think?
I would say our goal, we keep tossing around, so we got the high 5 values, and we're testing how brave we are with acquisitions and things like that. So me and my sister are souling around the idea of 50 and 5. So we'll hit the 15 or so mark this year, I think. Hopefully, we're just a month in and COVID wrecked us, but I think we still got it in us. So I would say to acquire and grow geographically, we will definitely tap out. I think somewhere around that 70 to 20 million mark in our market is pretty saturated, and so we're looking towards other cities in our state where we can make acquisitions and grow. So 50 and 5 is the kitschy little thing, but we're more important to make customers happy than to just grow by numbers.
Right. Totally agree. Because if that doesn't happen, then you got all sorts of headaches. So, oh, that's exciting. Well, good luck to you. Nick, how about you guys? What's Sylvester Electric got in its future? What are you guys thinking about?
Yeah, we're actually, our main focus right now, was the infrastructure with the team. And we want to be the company that everybody wants to work for in this area. So that's like our main focus. Yeah. More than, revenue growth. But with that being said, we're looking by this year to be having 20 trucks on the road, by the end of this year. And we want to get to, which is funny, Drew, that number you were using, because we keep talking about 25 million in 5 years. So our number is a little different, a little smaller, but yeah, 25 in 5 years. Yeah.
HVAC helps that a little bit, and
I was about to say, if we were just plumbing or a single, like our market allows us to really push the throttle down. We're in the Southeast, HVAC, it's hot. So I'd say it's a good bit different, but hey, there's also a way where you grow to 25 and make way more money than we do. So
hey, profit's what matters, right?
I was about to say, there's no magic number.
Right. Well, good stuff. Well, guys, Nick, Drew, thank you so much for your time, and thank you everyone that was watching live, and for the person that asked a question, we appreciate it. Just as a wrap up, this video will be available soon, SGI members on the hub, and then several weeks later, it will be distributed as an episode of the Successful Contractor Show, which is available on YouTube and your podcast player of choice. Thanks again, everyone. Next month, we will not have a monthly member discussion, as we'll be in Orlando for Expo. So if you haven't booked that room, please do so right now, because they're about all gone. So look forward to seeing you guys in person, and have a great rest of your day. Thanks again.
All right, bye.
See you guys. Take care. Bye-bye. That's Drew Hardin of Metro Plumbing, Heating, and Air Conditioning in Chattanooga, Tennessee, and Nick Sylvester of Sylvester Electric in Tewksbury, Massachusetts, talking about growth. Thanks for joining us. If you feel like you have a great story worth sharing that would also help other contractors, email me at bhouchin@yoursgi.com. Also, if you enjoyed today's episode, if you're on YouTube, give us a like and subscribe. If you're on your favorite podcast player, leave us a 5-star review. And please join us for future episodes. It's my promise to you that we'll continue to interview successful contractors and other influential individuals in residential contracting. This has been The Successful Contractor, powered by Success Group International.
Support for this podcast comes from Home Depot Pro. With an inventory of more than 100,000 products, the Home Depot Pro's product selection includes both the name brands you seek and the exclusive brands you trust. For more information, go to www.ebarnett.com. The Successful Contractor Podcast is part of the Success Group International family. SGI is the largest member-owned best practices organization for independent residential services contractors. SGI provides its members a competitive edge through proven proprietary management tools and expertise, marketing programs, training, and group buying power, along with a highly active and eager to help membership. For more information about Success Group International, visit www.yoursgi.com.